Cheng, the professors were talking about the strength of the domestic market, and part of that is the renewable energy sector, new energy vehicles, where China is becoming a world leader. Could you tell us a little bit about the balance between economic growth and being environmentally friendly and keeping to China's environmental goals?
Yeah, sure. China's commitment in building harmony between humanity and nature is very, very serious. For example, I'm a journalist. I travel around China, every corner of China. And every village, every city, every province you go, you will see huge signs saying lucid water and large mountains are invaluable assets. That shows how much we are paying attention to building harmony, but that's not the empty logo. If you go to some villages in China, you actually see some rivers that were once stinky and very polluted. Now you can swim in. It's very clear waters now. So you can see the results. You can see concrete transformations of the nature. And also I can give you some data. For example, renewable energy now makes up nearly 40% of China's electricity generation. China's forest coverage hit 25% in 2023, absorbing over 1.2 billion tons of carbon dioxide. China also is leading the EV market for a decade, reduced energy intensity by 26% since 2012. And also China have this, some people say, ambitious goal, ambitious commitment, which is to hit peak carbon emission before 2030 and also reach carbon neutrality before 2060. So that's how serious China is in committing, in building the harmony between nature and humanity.
Thank you, Cheng. So that takes us nicely into debate topic 4, which is China sacrificing the environment for economic growth? Cheng has outlined the raw facts between how China hopes to align its economic policies with environmental policies. But there are some headlines from outside China which do suggest there may be a contradiction. One is from the New York Times. China's soaring emissions are upending climate politics. And another from the BBC saying Chinese concrete addiction is a phenomenon which is damaging for the environment. So, Professor Li, China has a target of reducing the amount of energy it uses to grow the economy by 3% in 2025. How hard is it to reduce carbon emissions while still growing the economy?
I do not see the contradiction of Chinese government policy, but I do see the contradiction with the two foreign media outlook themselves. I think they have poor understanding of the relationship between environment protection and economic growth. I think this is not a contradiction. You do need to do that both. I think in that regard, China and the European countries are very much on the same page. They emphasize the climate change's impact to the region. But ironically, that the United States under Donald Trump in the past couple of months, just the withdrawal from the Paris Agreement and etc. I think that this again, I think to see China and Europe on the right side of history, I really hope that China will do more, make more commitment, because the Chinese leadership realize the environment protection will actually, to a certain extent, stimulate the Chinese economy with new energy development, with EV, with battery, with many other things. Now, of course, China should do more, should make more commitment. And I think, but at the same time, also tell us China's economic growth still has some room if some policy adjustment. So I'm so glad the Chinese government, despite all the challenges or economic slowdown, continue to make a commitment. And so that's my answer to your good question. I hope in this area, United States should correct some of the mistakes, especially the way to withdraw the Paris Agreement and President Donald Trump's view that there's no such thing called climate change. This is extremely dangerous if the U.S. as a major economic power continue to go against the global trend.
Okay, thank you very much. And Professor Wang, could you paint a picture for us? 3% target for a reduction in emissions to grow the economy by the 5% for this year. What does that look like in terms of the structure of the economy? Are there any fundamental changes?
Well, I have to say first that I think it is very unfair to criticize China for being the country with the highest carbon emission, because you mentioned or some Western media, they often mention and criticize China because China now become the highest carbon emissions. And more importantly, carbon emission are calculated based on the producer principle, not the consumer principle. And China is a factor of the world, producing about 30% of industrial products of the world. These industrial products are not consumed by the Chinese, but the carbon emissions are counted on the Chinese. This is unfair. So when we you asked how to balance the economic growth and the environmental protection, I think it's for China it's not very easy, because we all know that nowadays China is currently pursuing the low carbon development in order to create a better ecology. China's GDP has dropped from 9% 10 years ago to 5% now. Although 5% is also not bad. Chinese city now, as we all know that if you visit China 15 years ago or 10 years ago, a lot of in winter especially, a lot of Chinese city they had the smoke, but now fewer Chinese city can see the smoke, and right now Jingjing mentioned that you visit a lot of villagers, even very poor, not very developed cities, but you can see a lot of the parks, public parks, urban parks have doubled in the past decades. And also, Jingjing, you mentioned the forest resources, because the country, I mean China, the forest resources doubled, and also the fastest and the largest forest resources grows in the world. And Professor Li Cheng right now mentioned Donald Trump withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement. This is not the first time. So United States always withdraw from the climate agreement. But China has always been an implementer of the agreement. So from this perspective, Western media should stop blaming China for climate change. And also China is truly striving to balance the relationship between economic growth and ecological protections. In this regard, China is still doing better than most countries in the world.